Hello and welcome to Immediate Immersion Live. How is everybody doing today? I hope everybody's going to have a nice, safe 4th of July tomorrow. And just as always, if you have any questions as we come along, please go ahead and put them in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and put them also in the comments. I go back and check periodically, and I'll answer any questions you have. So today's topic on Immediate Immersion Live is interactive activities. How to get your students really engaged in the different lessons. And we'll get started right after this short video. And welcome back, everybody. So let's go ahead and get started today, and let's talk about engagement and what that looks like in your classroom. It's really important that we engage our students, and that means that they take an active role in their learning. They're not just passively sitting there listening to a lecture. And I know from the outside, teaching with comprehensible input looks very teacher-centric because you are standing at the front of the classroom and you are doing a lot of the talking. But that's what it looks like from the outside. But what's actually happening is it's very student-centric. Why? Because the things that we talk about, the answers that we get, the direction of our stories all come from the students. It's not unlike music class where you have the teacher at the front of the room conducting the band or the choir, but the stuff that's coming out is coming from the students. And it's very similar. We have to use the language to engage them, but what we're getting out of it in the direction of our lesson comes from our students. And so that in itself is very engaging. When we do our stories with our kids, they're coming up with the ideas for the stories. When we are doing a reading, it's just not a one way that we read to them. We are constantly asking them questions about what we're reading, what things mean, predictions for what's going on. All of those things are ways to keep students engaged in the lesson so that it's more active learning and not so much passive learning. So that's what we're trying to get in our classrooms, this maximum engagement so that they are interested enough to pay attention long enough to be able to acquire language. With that comes also very important, a positive culture. You have to build those relationships and a positive culture in your classroom. Just last week I posted on our blog, which you can get at mm.us/blog. Let me go ahead and type that in here for everybody. m.us/blog. Okay, so you can go there and you can read the article from last week. We talk about building a positive and inclusive culture in your classroom. But you want to build positive relationships with students so that students feel comfortable no matter who they are, where they come from, what their race or their nationality or their religion, that everybody feels comfortable to be able to speak up and be vulnerable in class. That's what's really important. And you want to create that atmosphere because students can't truly be engaged unless there's this positive culture in the classroom, if they don't feel like it's a safe place where they can be themselves. So that's really, really important to foster that type of a classroom in in your class. So you do this by building relationships, by showing students that their opinions matter, no matter what side their opinion may be, whether it agrees with yours or not, or whether that's a popular opinion or not. Everybody gets a fair chance for their voice to be heard without judgment. So that's what you want to create between engaging your students and creating this positive culture for this engagement to actually happen. So those are the basic background information that we need to be able to get started. Now let's go ahead and get started into some specific activities that you can do in your classroom to engage your students. And the first of which we're going to go over is brain breaks. And I am certainly not an expert on brain breaks. A lot of the brain breaks I get are from who I consider to be the expert in brain breaks, La Maestra Loca, Annabelle Williamson. She is absolutely amazing. And if you go to lamaestraloca.com, you can check out her website and all of her brain breaks that she has. She has tons of them. And a lot of them that I use I've gotten from her. She's not my only source, but that's where I get a lot of them from. And brain breaks are a way to give the brain a little bit of a break from the actual lesson to engage in some other activity so that the brain gets a refresh and a restart that you can then continue the lesson. When do we use these? Definitely when you're teaching in a block, you definitely want at least one or two of these. Excuse me. My usually go-to is that if any chunk of the lesson lasts for more than 20 minutes, you want to break it up with a brain break. Now, most of my classes are about just under 45 minutes, so those I usually don't do brain breaks very often because I break up my lessons with other activities. So we're not just doing a 45-minute lesson. We've got, reading, we've got songs, we've got different activities that break it up. But if the main chunk of my lesson turns out to be 20 minutes or longer, I'm going to break it up with a brain break because my rule of thumb is about every 20 minutes. Now, you can also give one if you see there's a lull in engagement in your classroom. So when you see that there's this lull in engagement, then you can offer a brain break to kind of recharge everybody's batteries. And these are just quick 3 to 5 minute games that don't necessarily have to be in the target language. They can be, but it's something different, usually has some action in it, some physicality, to give the kids a break for a couple of minutes before you return back to the lesson. And many people think, well, I don't have 5 minutes to waste on a game in the middle of my lesson. But actually, it's more effective to take that little bit of a break. Why? Because if you keep on going, your kids are going to start dropping like flies if their eyes are already glazed over. And this is a way of a reset to get them back engaged so that that second half of that lesson, they're more present for. So it's not a waste of time at all. Some of my go-tos for this, some of these children's games that we used to play on the playground, things like hot potato, musical chairs, duck, duck, goose. Those are some really fun ones. You can do silent ball. You can do different forms of rock, paper, scissors. And we don't have time today to go into all the different and the specifics of all these brain breaks. But those are ideas you can go into La Maestra Loca's website or do some Google searches for some of these and find out exactly how to do them. I also have some resources on my blog and on YouTube as well. You can go and check and see previous videos where I talk about some of these as well. But lots of these ideas Another one I like that from Maestro Loca is the obstacle courses ones. You find the Wii Fit obstacle course videos, and there's a little dude, running and jumping and swinging and swaying, and the kids stand up and do the exact same things that are going on in that. Again, you can go to La Maestra Loca to read more about that particular brain break. Oh, and body percussion. So look up body percussion videos on YouTube. And we've got Mariushi. Mariushi. Welcome. She says, "Hi, Scott. Thank you for hosting such informative sessions for world language teachers. You are so welcome. Thank you for joining us today." So, as I was saying, the percussion, it's body percussion where they play popular songs and then you do different things. It tells you on the screen whether you're clapping your hands, you're stomping your feet, you're snapping your fingers. It's another fun way to engage students in a little bit of a brain break. So those are brain breaks. Another way to engage is with games, and these are longer, more deliberate, more planned out games that you can do to help kids engage. Again, I don't have time today to go over all of the specific games. I'll give you a few ideas, and then you can go on Google and do some more research on them. One is called the unfair game, and you can get that from the information for that on Martina Bex's website, the Comprehensible Classroom. She has got this game, and it's called the unfair game because students answer questions and then they decide whether they want to keep the reward or give it away, and they don't know what the reward is, and then they flip it over and it could be gain points or lose points. And so it's unfair because they answer the question correctly, but they could lose points along the way. So that's a fun one to play. I also like to play one of my own games called Stand Up, Sit Down, and I'll describe that one a little bit for you. I have everybody seated, usually in a circle, and then I ask them questions. It could be vocabulary questions or reading questions or any types of questions I want to review with my students. If they get it right, they get to stay seated. If they get it wrong, they have to stand up, and we continue going around. If I get to a student who's standing up, if they can answer the next 3 questions correctly in a row, they can sit back down. And then the winners, and it's always multiples, are the ones still seated at the end of the time that we're playing the game. So it's a fast-paced little review game. Another one that requires no pre-planning is called the pencil game, and I often use this as a review at the end of class. This is a game where whatever you did in class, you're going to ask true and false questions in the target language about what you did. And then students work together in pairs. If the answer to the question is false, they have some object that they need to grab, usually a pencil. And if they have it in their hands and the statement is false, they earn a point. If they have it in their hands, they grab it, and the statement is true, then they lose a point. If nobody grabs the pencil, then there's no points gained or lost. And so it's another quick review game that requires no pre-planning, no preparation whatsoever, and students love this game. It's a quick, fast-paced game, and kids can also win with negative points because they could have less negative points than their partner that they're working with. So that's a fun one. What other games have I played? There's a version of Battleship. You can search on there how to play Battleship with trivia questions. You can do that. There's always the classic Jeopardy that's out there that you can play. Also, remember the old-fashioned game dots where you have a dot grid and then you draw a line and then your next person draws a line and the next person draws a line and you're trying to make boxes? You can do that one as well. Make that little board, display it up on the screen, and kids can do it by, if they answer a question correctly, then they get the opportunity to draw a line where they want to. Fly Swatter is another engaging game where you put vocabulary or answers to questions up on the screen. It's really easy to use, like a Google slide, putting your words or your pictures or whatever you're going to use as answers, spread it all over the screen. And then kids use a fly swatter to be the first to swat the correct answer. I like that game, but I find the traditional way of doing it with only two people playing at a time with a line of kids behind them, only two kids are being engaged. So another version that I like to do, again, I'll make my little board on a Google slide, but I will print that board out. So that, let's say if I've got 30 kids in my class, I'll make 15 boards. So two kids can play at a time and they use their fingers to play. That way I get more engagement with my students. So those are some games. Oh, I forgot another one I like to play. Classroom Twister. So what I do for that one, because the boards you buy at the store are a little are too small for your whole classroom, I'll take construction paper, and then I don't use circles because it's too hard to cut the circles. It's much quicker to cut squares. I will cut colored squares out, and then I will just use the blue painter tape and tape it temporarily to my floor for the class period, spread them out, and then you can use one of those spinner wheels. If you look on Google, do a spinner wheel, online spinner wheel, you can put body parts and colors along that and then spin that so everybody sees it spinning on your screen, and then they can put their hands, their feet, exactly how it goes. That's another fun game. It reviews body parts, and you can even stretch it out and not just use, hands and feet. You can do elbows and fingers, nose, those kinds of things, different body parts to make it more fun and engaging and practice more of those and do maybe more colors than what the traditional game uses. So those are some of those games that I like to do to help engage students. And next we're going to talk about technology. And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, either now if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay. You can put them there. Again, I go back and I check periodically. So technology. There is a lot of technology that you can use to engage students, and I am certainly no expert in all things that you can use in your classroom. I can just share with you some of the things that I've used in my classroom to engage my students in technology. I especially use this in my disenfranchised student class that I had last year. It was one of the most challenging classes I've ever had to teach. These kids did not do school in any way, shape, or form, yet I had to find a way to teach them. And one of the ways I did that is with technology, finding different ways to engage them through technology. So let me show you a couple. I'm going to go ahead and switch over and share my screen here. Okay, so let me pop myself in here. There we go. So, first thing is GimKit, and it is a paid app. I pay for it. It's $60 a year, I believe, is how much it is. And for me, it's well worth it. Let me go ahead and log in really quickly here. Trying to remember. I never remember with which account that I log in with. Let me see if it's this one here. We'll find out if I've got GimKits. Oh, yes. Okay. So you can see all the different games that I have made. You can either find your own and search to find some. Some of these I did find and I copied to mine. Some I made my own. I'll create some of these. Like we did a story with two students in my class that were nicknamed Alfie and Little Tai Tai. So I made questions about the story and then we can play. What I like about GimKit is there's a lots of different games that you can play. See, here's just and I usually ask my kids which game they would prefer to play. To play it, I don't care which one they play, but it's just a fun activity that kids really like to do. They get to play on their own devices, their phones, Chromebooks, iPads, anything like that they can play with. So they really like playing this one. So that's one activity you can do. Quizlet is an oldie but goodie. I used this a long time ago. And let me see if that's going to get me. That's not the right account, I can tell you right off the bat. So let's go here. I guess I didn't log in with that one either. Where did I log in? Let me go. Always works when I'm doing live that nothing works like I want. So let's probably didn't sign up with Google. Let's go log in. Different account. There, that's the one. Okay. So here I made lots of different sets. Some are vocabulary sets. Some are based off novels that we read. And then kids can play, again, a variety of games. This is a freemium. You can pay for it or not. I've never paid for it. I've always just used the free version. But there's flashcards. There's Learn. They change the types of games that you can play along with it. But again, it's an old classic that you can use if you want to have them engage in that way. Blooket is something new. I only did it a couple times last year. Let's see if I can even find my account because I haven't probably logged in a long time ago. Oh, so it's not there. Let me see, Scott. Okay, so then if I didn't do there, let's see, did I do it here? Oh, there it is. Okay, so you can see I made one in here. And again, it works very similar to the way the others work. They have different games to play. You put in your questions along the way, and then you can host a game. The other standby classic is Kahoot. And click the X there. So kahoot.it/create to act. Whoops. Create.kahoot.it is to create your Kahoots. Or again, you can search for them and find others and use them. And again, I don't pay for this. It's a freemium app. There's a free version. I always don't pay for this one. I never pay for it. So I always just have to click on continue with basic. And then I have my variety of different questions that I can have kids do. So here's all the different ones that I have done in the past. Another one, I've not used this one. It's one I want to use. I just never had the time to actually create one. But it's called Ed Puzzle. Some of you may be familiar. This is also it's a freemium one. There's a free version and then there's a paid upgrade. But here you put in, like, we always want to show a video. and then have kids answer questions. But we want them to actually see the video. And lots of times kids will just Google the answers or search up and skip and not actually watch the video, just get to the answers. I know I used to do this in school with chapters. You know, you have the question at the end of the chapter. I never read the chapter. I would kind of hunt and peck for the answers and then move along. Well, this stops that from happening. You insert the questions at certain points in the video and they can't continue on until they answer the questions. So it's a more engaging way to show videos. I'll show the pricing down here because I think to get your full value, you're going to need to be able to pay for it. But looking through here, you can see there is free. You get about 20 video lessons, but otherwise it's $13.50 a month for you to be able to get unlimited use of the app. So that's another way to use technology. Textivate, textivate.com. I think that's the site, Textivate. Okay, Textivate. Oh, Textivate, not Textivate. Okay, this is another app. This is one that it looks kind of old-fashioned. But you put your text in here. And you can have them do different things with it. You can make a matching game. You can have them put things in order. Lots of different things. But it's a paid app as well. But it works really, really well to manipulate different things with text. That's what's the magic about it. And the pricing on it, for the basic, is about 30 British pounds per year. And then 60 British pounds per year to use all of the features. And then you can see about all the different ways that you can, what you get with each plan. So those are some technology ways to engage your students in class. Let's move on to questioning. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Questioning is the main way in a comprehension-based classroom that we are working to engage our students in our lessons. Whether we are having conversations, we are doing a story, a picture talk, a movie talk, whether we are doing a reading or reading a novel, any of those things, the key to those lessons are engaging our students with questions. These are questions in the target language that are both scaffolded and differentiated for the students. What do I mean by that? Scaffolding means going from easier to more difficult. So starting off with yes or no, either or, before moving on to open-ended questions. And even within open-ended questions, there's a variance of complexity. Your who, what, when, and where questions, those usually can be answered in 1 or 2 words very easily, and those are your lower end of your open-ended questions, where how and why require usually a little bit more language to be able to answer them, and so they're a little bit more complex. So scaffolding the questions, you want to start out easy and work your way up. And then differentiated means that you're asking the right question to the right student at the right time. So my easier questions I'm going to ask to my struggling students. Those kids that are struggling with the language but are trying to acquire the language. They're not kids who are tuned out to you. And then my intermediate questions, my either or and my simple who, what, where, when questions are going to be to my mid-level students. And then my faster processors, I'm going to ask the how and why questions. Those are questioning and scaffolding and differentiating those questions. And you are constantly doing this throughout the lesson. Not even a minute or two, after every statement, you are asking lots and lots of questions in no particular order to make sure that you are fully engaging, that you are checking for comprehension, and that you are aware that your students are with you during the lesson. And again, you want to ask whole class, because that's also scaffolding, letting the slower processors hide amongst the group to begin with to warm them up. But then you want to ask individual students questions to make sure that they are all with you. So it's really important to immerse your class. You should be having more questions than anything else in class during a lesson. That really engages them, it engages their brains, and you can assess how well the lesson is going over with students. If they're able to answer these questions easily in milliseconds, then maybe the lesson's a little too easy. You need to step it up a little bit. If they need a little bit of time to think, that's probably the perfect spot. If they're not answering your questions and they are engaged, then that means the lesson's too difficult. They're not understanding. You need to go back and scaffold it more for them. So questions are another way to fully engage your students. And our last topic for today is going to be what other things during your lessons can you do to engage your students in the lessons. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. The first, and I like to do this especially for my kids who have trouble staying focused. Usually those are kids with attention deficit issues, but not necessarily, but those ones I usually target. I'll give them a sticky note with a key word on it, a word that I want to work on in my lesson today, or that I know is going to come up a number of times in my lesson today. And their goal is to put a little hash mark every time they hear that word. Now, I'm not really caring if it's 100% accurate, though I do use it as feedback for myself to kind of see if I've hit that word enough in that class period. But the main idea is for that kid to listen for that particular word, they have to pay attention to the whole class period to be able to find out when I'm saying that word. So that helps them stay more focused. It gives them a task to work on. So I'll have these sticky notes already ready at the beginning of class, and as I'm greeting my students in class, I'll hand them out to random students that I want them to focus on those particular words. Another idea is to have rejoinders on little signs. Things like, oh my gosh, or you don't say, or how funny, or cool, or any of those types of things that you can do. And what you want kids to do is you're handing these signs out to a variety of students in your class. And as class goes on, when they think that their sign applies to a moment in class, cool, what a shame, darn, any of those, then they stand out with their sign and they say their rejoinder. That's a great way to teach idiomatic expressions and to get kids involved in that. Another one I learned from Betsy from Alaska, who teaches Japanese, is for words that are difficult for kids to remember the meaning, assign those words to students in your class. For example, I learned in Japanese that demo means but, like but in a sentence. And how do I know that? Because a student she assigned that word to in class, every time that word came up in class, that kid would jump up, say demo means but, and sits back down. So it helps kids remember, because every time that word was used in class, that student would jump up, demo means but, and sits back down. Demo means but, and sits back down. And so that's another way to help get kids more engaged in the lesson. Again, they have to listen to the whole lesson for when they hear that magic word that they're listening for. Another way is to assign funny words that you give kids that are random funny words. And then the goal of the student is to find a way to get that word into the lesson in some kind of logical way. So let's say you gave them the word for meatball, and you're doing a story, and now they've got to find a way to get that in to be part of the story. So that's what they're going to be trying to do. So you ask, like, what does a person eat? Meatball. And you can turn that one down, and they got to find another point to try to get that into the story, because maybe you're looking for something more creative than just eating a meatball. Maybe they ride a meatball to get from point A to point B. Or they throw a meatball at a wall or a window to get someone's attention or something like that. You want a more creative way for them to engage that word into the lesson. But again, between listening for the words and putting the hash marks, rejoinders, trying to get those in, assigning a kid a word that is difficult to remember and they define that word by jumping up, or giving kids weird random words to try to get into the lesson, are ways to really engage students in the creative process, get their brain thinking, get them moving and action oriented into the lesson. All of those work really, really well. And the last idea that I have, how to engage and have students interact in the lesson, is an idea that I learned both from whole brain teaching, which has nothing to do with language teaching. It's just teaching in general. You can Google that and learn more about whole brain teaching. They have a lot of great ideas that I incorporate in various parts of my classroom. And then also combined with Alina Filipescu, who's an amazing Spanish teacher in Southern California. Look her up if you ever have a chance to watch one of her YouTube videos, attend one of her talks or her workshops. She's absolutely amazing, and her kids are amazing as well. But she also incorporates some of these ideas from whole brain teaching and made them her own. And this is when she says certain things in class, kids are to react in a physical way in some way. And I'll give you just a few examples of those. Like cool. Whenever she says the word cool, kids are supposed to go like that. So that she knows that they're understanding and they're paying attention and they know what's going on. Filipescu, let's see. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Mariushi. It is Alina Filipescu. I believe that's how you spell it. And I'll put it up here on there. She is originally from Romania. She lives in Southern California now. She speaks multiple languages, French, Spanish, English, and obviously Romanian. And she's just an amazing teacher. You are so welcome. Okay. So another one that she does is when she says, how ridiculous. She has kids slap their knees and then stand up. And I love to use this technique as well, when she says, I've got a secret, kids lean in with their hand cupped around their ear, and then she whispers what the secret is. I love using that one. It gets kids to pay more attention to what I'm saying when I do that. So that one works really, really well. These are just actions, and you can come up with more. And you can look up Alina Filipescu, and she has a list of them that she uses. You can make up your own. You can use hers. You can add to them however you want. But the idea is to get kids to react with some sort of action to common phrases that come up frequently in the classroom. Oh, another one, and this is what I do for whenever I say there is a problem, I have my kids go, oh me, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh me, oh my. And then follow it with a snap like this, like, oh shucks. So I go, clase, hay un problema. They go, oh no, oh me, oh my. And I had one kid who can't snap, can't make that sound, so he'd always go, and there were no sound. He goes, snapping noise, so that he would make that in there. I'm not, Mariushi says, do you know if Alina has syllabus ideas? I'm sure she may. You can reach out to her. I don't know if she has a website. Let me see. Let me look up here. Alina Filipescu. I know she's got a YouTube. She's on Twitter and she has a YouTube channel. So you can contact her through one of those. I think that those would be the best places. I know she guest blogs on a Mandarin blog, but I don't know the exact name of that one off the top of my head. But you can get her on Twitter or YouTube. Those are two of the things. If you just put in her name for YouTube, you can find her. And you can see a lot of her videos. And then you should be able to contact her there. Great question. Thank you. So those are the different ways. You're so welcome. So those are the different ways that I engage my students in class. And again, it's so very important to engage your students and keep them engaged so they're not bored. The whole goal is that you want them to be interested enough to pay attention long enough for language acquisition to occur. And the only way you're going to get that to happen is if you engage them. And I've given you quite a few different ways to engage them in lessons. And keep in mind that variety is the spice of life. You don't want to just do one all of the time. You want to spread them out and you want to do different things so that they're not getting tired of the same old thing all of the time. Before I let you go and wish you a wonderful 4th of July holiday if you are in the United States and celebrate, let me tell you that we are in the middle of our, let me put this up here, our CI summer camp. Our early bird special is past already, but you can still join us for $97 for 10 webinars. We've done the first 3, but they are recorded, so you can watch them. And our next one will be on Wednesday, where we do them live. But again, if you're not able to watch live, you are welcome to watch the replays. They are at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. As I said, they're 10 webinars that give you all the basics to either refresh your CI knowledge or to get you started and ready for the next school year. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go to mm.us/summer school. m.us/summer school. I'm sorry, not summer school, summer camp. And you can join us for that. And please, if you have found any of this information useful, please share it with people that you know. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit that notification bell so that you can get notified when we do our lives or our pre-recorded. We generally upload a pre-recorded every week, usually on Wednesdays, and then we do our lives on Mondays. So unless anybody has any more questions, everybody have a safe holiday tomorrow, and I will see everybody next week. Have a great day, everyone.